So in this video, I'm going to cover 3 ways indie booksellers, indie authors, and indie publishers can team up to help each other out. All right, let's jump in. So the very first way we can help each other is through favorable purchasing agreements. Now, the standard is that you put your book into Ingram Spark or some other distribution system that I can access. You set it at a normal rate. I buy your book. You make your profit on that purchase. I make my profit when I sell the book to a reader. The only way to make this any better is if you can sell direct to me. Now, the reason why direct sales are awesome is because I give you the distribution fee that Ingram would normally take if I was buying your book through Ingram. And so you can give me a little bit of a lower rate, meet me in the middle, to give me a little bit more of that profit as well. So what does this mean? So essentially, when I buy your book through Ingram and you set it at 55%, 15 of that 55% goes to Ingram, the distributor, as a distribution fee. And the other 40% comes to the bookseller. So I make 40% profit, you make 45. Ingram takes the 15, right? So you're making 5% more than I would in that relationship, and that's fine. No big whoop there. But if we have a direct sale relationship where I buy directly from you, the publisher, or from you, the indie author, now there's no middleman. We've cut out the distributor, okay? Now, what that means is we can make a more favorable rate for you and for me. And in some cases, that means the bookseller, right, the bookstore, just pays you 60% instead of Ingram, right? And you keep the 15% distribution fee. I'm all about that. When an author comes in my store, when they walk in the store with the books in hand, they've basically shipped those books to me directly, right? Like they're coming in here with their books. This is great. I'm going to give you 60%. Now, if you are outside of the area and you need to ship them to me, now I have to pick up the shipping cost. So it would be nice if I didn't eat that shipping cost and end up spending more than I would if I were ordering through Ingram. So I would ask you to maybe negotiate a couple of percentages. Maybe we do 50-50, maybe we do 55% for you instead of 60, and I keep 5% to cover the shipping. Whatever the means is, we come to a mutual agreement where we take that 15% and we divide it, whether it be in half or whatever, so that it doesn't lean too far in either direction. Now, I've done this a lot with indie presses where I've bought books directly from an indie press. And in that circumstance, they're selling them to me at a more favorable rate. Or from a larger publisher, they're selling it to me at a more favorable rate than if I bought it through Ingram. Through Ingram, I'm going to spend 60% of your cover price to buy that book wholesale. If I go to an indie publisher, it may be 55 or 50%. And we can basically just replace indie publisher with indie author or self-published author in this equation as well. If I'm buying direct from you, I could pay anywhere from 50 to 60% wholesale, and we would be on good ground. And the more favorable that rate for me is, the better for me, right? The only thing we have to discuss then is shipping costs. So if I know there's going to be a significant amount of shipping involved, that could cost me quite a bit. So I would like to work that out in a negotiation as well. All right, so the second way we can help each other is through education. So my first point was about establishing favorable purchasing agreements between the supplier and the buyer of the books, right? Whether it be the indie publisher or indie author and the bookstore. Well, I found out about that relationship through education from a bookseller when I was selling my books as an indie publisher to a bookstore. And I'd like to share that story with you real quick because I feel like it really kind of shows how this works. Now, I own an indie publishing company, So Below Books, co-founded with my buddy LP Hernandez. By the way, he's an amazing author. Go check out his stuff. And we were coordinating a sale of one of our books en masse to a bookstore up in Canada. And Chris, the owner of Little Ghost Books in Toronto, is amazing. Chris has been in the industry for a while, and when we got in contact with each other, they reached out to us and said, hey, we want to buy a bulk order of your books to use for our book club for that month. And we said, this is great, right? Like as a publisher, you're like, this is exactly what we want to hear. And once they saw our rates, they said, hey, You do understand these rates aren't necessarily favorable for a bookstore to make an agreement with you guys. Let me explain why that is. And I thought the cool thing about what Chris did was Chris didn't assume that we already knew everything and that we were trying to get the better half on them, or like pull one over, or like try to get more money out of this relationship. Chris assumed that we were trying to do the right thing, and we maybe just didn't know. And Chris's assumption was correct. We didn't know. And it changed the way we worked with bookstores moving forward. So I think that communication, the relationship, and the education that comes from that is one of the most important ways we can help each other. So I don't understand necessarily what your printing or your distribution system look like. I mean, I work with all different people, and the same goes for them. They don't know whether I have publishing agreements directly with large companies or if I get everything through Ingram. Like, how is this working? Booksellers often are working differently than another bookseller, and some indie authors and indie publishers are working differently than their counterparts. And so we should always assume that we can have an open conversation about to help each other. So that second point, very important, is to share our knowledge together and help everyone get smarter about how to work together. Okay, the third and final way for us to help each other, and this one should be very obvious, but it's a lot of lip service often and not a lot of like doing, is we should be marketing for each other. So when I buy from a bookseller, like an indie publisher, indie author, I try to, when their order comes in, I try to make a big deal out of it, like an unboxing or some type of post where I'm like, hey, check out this publisher. I'm an indie bookstore and I love working with them. Isn't this book great? Like all the things. Or we'll talk about their work. We'll talk about their books. We try to highlight that partner. We want that partner to be able to do the same thing for us. It's not just about money, right? It's about lifting each other. The whole, a rising tide lifts all boats or lifts all ships. Like that's what we're talking about here. We can all help each other by promoting each other. So when I work with other local businesses on an event, I take their obligation to promote for them very seriously. In fact, I'm hesitant to say yes to events because of that. Like I know that I take the obligation to market for them very seriously. And so we need to be tagging each other in posts. We need to be talking about each other's businesses and each other's events so that we can help each other. Indie authors sometimes are wonderful about this, and they're better at the marketing than I am. They're better at the marketing and pushing like their readers into our store to find other readers or to buy their books directly from us. And that's fantastic. But I do have a lot of authors that come in, and mind you, I deal with a lot more indie authors than I do indie publishers. So that's why the authors are getting a little bit of a shout out right here. Sometimes I get authors that are like, hey, I don't even like marketing my own book, right? I hate marketing. I don't do marketing. I'm like, well, that doesn't make you a very favorable partner for another business. So back to my very first video about how to work with selling your books to a bookstore. If you're an indie author or an indie publisher, this is that point, right? About like us making sure we are promoting, we are cross promoting each other's businesses. Your business is that you're an author and you've got these books out. My business is that I'm a bookseller selling your books. So help me sell your books. Help me sell other indie authors' books. Like let's all help each other out, okay? And that is the third and probably the easiest one to say, but the hardest to actually do. If you haven't been to the channel before, my name is Lucas. I'm the owner and bookseller here at Spineless Reads in Williamsburg, Virginia. This is my YouTube channel. I would love it if you guys subscribed, like the video, and tell all your friends about it so that we can keep this thing going. All right, I'll talk to you soon.